I'll say until we publish the final copy, that is a living document. We've got a lot of smart AGs and finance folks on the team that we've shown that to, that we've shared it with, but we've been off the line for some time now. So if there's stuff that impacts pay, benefits, accountability, or casualty notification processes that you don't see we've captured and developed a plan to address during brownout and cutover, please bring it to our attention. We'll either tell you why it's not in the book, or we'll take your advice and we'll develop a plan and make sure that it gets captured there. Pending any direct questions, I think that's a good broad overview of what we're planning for. Always available here. It's john.a.elko.mil. You can find me in the global. There's only 2 Elkos, and I'm not Gloria. So feel free to reach out anytime.
Thank you, John. Does anyone have any questions about brownout cutover? So we'll move along to the next topic of interest. That would be the workflow SOP development. So think through what the units will do and how you will use workflow when we go live. The S1 pools cannot be built until brownout cutover, but it's a good think about a way ahead now so that when it does happen, you can just build the workflows and you're not thinking through the process of who needs to be on workflow. For example, figure out who needs to see an MSM as it processes through the system and get that ready and then build the workflow once the system comes up. The S1, so, the workflow process will help facilitate your SOP. All the actions and transactions are really SOP driven and the workflow will just facilitate. And so the S1 pools does push everything to battalion S1s as the first locations, but you can build into the workflow and add in company clerks who can help. Primary reason why everything goes straight to the battalion S1 is there are some transactions that once approved are permanent and they push some paid transactions and they push documents to iTerms. So that S1 pool is built in there so they can do some review of the documents before it goes to that approval that may be the company commander. So if you want to build your SOP that the company clerks can be the people to review, that is an option. So also need to think through some of the legacy processes potentially for actions. If you're on an installation, but your higher headquarters is a different installation, potentially some of your things would process through a local higher headquarters or MPD because it needed to be manual and it was easier to do that way versus push to your higher headquarters at a different location. Potentially those processes can change now because it's simple that all the documents are initiated in IPPS-A and they push through IPPS-A. So think through some of these things and understand that maybe some processes can change. That goes to that third bullet there. Also the HR transformation. Are we changing the way we do stuff to make it meet the capabilities that IPPS-A provides us versus just sticking to how we always did something? Does anyone have any questions on workflow and SOP development? Okay. The next topic there is the home host unit discussion. So when you're looking at this, if you've done your HR Pro training, there is a module that talks about home and host unit discussion. But the key is here, this is just another name for attachment. So your home unit is your parent UIC and the host would be that temporary location. So looking at when the active component, you would only be able to see what is entered in emailpo. With IPPS-A, you'll have the ability to put someone as a host unit. And so the home unit would be able to see you and the host unit would be able to see you. And then units can set the permissions to determine what actions are done by the home or host unit. So if you get deployed and you go to a different higher headquarters, it can determine as to who processes your awards or who processes any name change if you happen to get married on mid-tour leave or something like that. One thing to look at moving forward also is for those in their TDY at a school. So a lot of the times the parent unit or the home unit would still do the transactions potentially while you're at a TDY location, but also while they're there, does the host unit need to be able to do leave forms? So looking at that, how you use the home host function for people as they go TDY or on a potential deployment, and then how any personal action requests, the PARs, are processed. I don't know, is there anyone on the line that from National Guard that may have some familiarity and has used this, so maybe some lessons learned for the home host discussions? The last of the topics of interest here is that impacts on data dependency. So IPPS-A will pull in information from legacy systems, and then we have outbound. So knowing that the authoritative data source for some info, specifically use the example of if someone gets married and they go to the DEERS office and they add their dependent into DEERS. IPPS-A right now is getting a refresh of all data approximately once every 24 hours. So when you go to the ID card shop and input your dependent in DEERS on Tuesday morning, by Tuesday afternoon, when you go in to IPPS-A and you want to try to update your DD93 to have your dependent listed on there, probably won't see that as an authorized dependent yet because it hasn't been 24 hours and the inbound data feed has not pushed from DMDC, which owns DEERS, into IPPS-A. Same with some of the outbound stuff. Know that it refreshes approximately 24 hours for all the actions. This also will affect some of the analytics and BI information that we're going to have with the system. So it is housed separately. Most of the IPPS-A is housed in a database called the HCM, but it is the human capital management part. We will do the BI out of OBI-EE, and that will also not be immediate because of how large of a database this needs to be. It is like a 24-hour push. So knowing, you do a transaction right now, it's not, and get the data, from one of the authoritative data source. So everyone takes, their APFT or ACFT or whatever ends up being approved for our test of record. They get it all updated in the G3 one day, and it goes into the DTMS. It's not going to automatically be able to pull a report that shows all the new PT and height and weight data. You'll have at least 24-hour wait. Also wanted to address some of the best practices that we've learned from Release 2 and our National Guard counterparts. These SOPs, data quality, and the PAI. So I know there's been maybe a little bit of angst about the PAI and everything, but that is one of the key areas from the National Guard with understanding and ensuring that they had accountability once the system, after brownout cut over and they went live, is that data that they received and all the updates they were able to make from doing the PAI. And then their SOPs. The user guide that we are working on and will be published, expect by the beginning of December, the user guide will be published. It shows you how to do an action, but it's really those SOPs and the things that you work on at the unit level that'll determine who should do the action. And then we'll allow your NCOs and warrant officers to determine some of the permissions and identify who will do what transactions in the system. Since everything is, of course, now in IPPS-A, it's less to, does your ward clerks need access to TopMIS? Probably no, they only have email PO, but now everything's in IPPS-A, so they've got to work through some of these items. And then understanding the CRM. So the CRM is our customer relationship management, and it's like your inquiry, so your help desk tickets. They found in the National Guard that it sometimes gets a lot of CRM tickets, but this is also should redo how, so not so much foot traffic maybe in the S1. It'll be more managing online in the online database, and as we work through this, making sure everything is updated frequently asked questions out there on the CRM updated so that some individuals can just get the answers as opposed to having to do new CRM cases. Pending any questions on the topic of interest, we'll move along to the next slide. Any questions? So if anyone does not know or has not already done so, the IPPS-A app is now available on the Apple Store and it's also available on Google Play. So as an individual, you can do all of your own transactions from your phone with a DS logon. If you're using the elevated role in Access, you must have a CAC card and log in from a device that is CAC enabled. So I have the app on the phone. You can do your HR Pro training from your app on the phone. Works well. So if you haven't downloaded, think about downloading the app. And then this last one is the systems and environment. This kind of just is a good ticket for the number of systems and things we are subsuming. So we are going to bring all three components, active, guard, and reserves, into one system for approximately 1.1 million soldiers. All into one personnel and pay system to give total force visibility and increase and support readiness and talent management, and also the auditability is to help with the challenges the Army has with auditing the mill pay accounts. Again, we're going from 157 separate business processes down to 52, making us fully IA and cyber compliant, with, as I mentioned before, that secure and auditable. The conversions is where we're taking information, where we're converting that data to use an IPPS-A, and then full subsumptions, these systems will go away once IPPS-A comes online, and partial subsumptions are systems that will remain in place for now, and we'll take pieces or part of them will come down when IPPS-A release 3 goes live. Those are all the slides I have, so I'm open for questions or discussions or anything that the group might have. Dorothea, no questions from many, so I do not have any other items. So I will say thank you for those who listened, and we'll have a good rest of your day.
Sessions or they had the way that they were moving folks around, but that PAI was critical because you're going to have, they tried to bring on as many people as they could before the cutover, and then it was a really good PAI that made sure up front, and then the validation after go live. A really great comment was, your sergeants and staff sergeants really should almost look at the system as if they were the owner. So like CRM was mentioned, CRM, easy to use tool, but it has to be managed. So, those IT tickets coming in and who's working them and how long they've been sitting there, it can be a full-time job. So, but, not only do you need to know how to use CRM, but you may be getting simple IT questions. I can't log in, my password doesn't work. All those things kind of go along with an IT system. Our S1s are probably going to get questions like that. So, we'll provide the information, right? I mean, we can give you those troubleshooting guidelines, but I don't want S1s to think that they're never going to get a question from a user that says, I don't know how to log in, or I'm getting this specific error. Clearly an IT issue, but soldiers and users are probably not going to default to going to the IT help desk. They're probably just going to click the button to go to their S1. So we want to make sure that we arm our S1s with some of that knowledge and use of the system, not just how actions flow, but also, hey, how do we troubleshoot items in the system? So big news, we are now in the Google Play Store. So all of our Android users that have been wondering for months and months and months, when am I going to be able to download the app? You can download the app from the Google Play Store now. So there's actually 3 ways to get it. Actually, I take that back, 4. You can get it from the the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store. You can download it still through the TRADE Act App Gateway. And then for your government furnished equipment, you can download the Apple, the iOS version from DoD apps. And if it's not out there already, it should be out there soon. The Google Play, the Android version should be on DoD apps very soon. This is really just to show you the environment as it exists. We're converting data from 11 systems, full subsumptions, we've got 11, and then partial subsumptions. This is why this is so hard, because if you think through some of our legacy systems, we've got folks we're pulling legacy data from different systems and putting them in the same place in IPPS-A because everybody's in the same place now. So it does cause a little bit of issue with conversions. You've got to make sure you've got all of the business rules right. And then we'll take down several systems. But just a slide to really show you the complexity of what we're trying to do. But it will clean up how we do business. So really, I just want to open it up to questions. I don't know how many people are on the line.
Okay, well ma'am, so it appears that this is a blessing in disguise, meaning the delaying the deployment of the system for however long without getting ahead of the announcement next week. The only concern that I would have would be if the delay is too long, then we have gained a lot of momentum right now. Everyone is on the system, everyone is eager to take the training, but if there's a really long pause, my concern will be that we lose that momentum and everything that we have gained so far, then we kind of like holding a pause button, and then we become complacent on not knowing if or when the system. Do you expect that pause to be long or just short enough so we can continue with this momentum?
Well, so what you're saying is exactly what our concern is and was as well. So we certainly don't want to lose momentum, but we also want to make sure that we feel the system that works, one, but really it lives up to the hype that we've been talking about. So there's a balance there because we know we have quite a bit of work to do. What I will say is it's gonna take all of us in our HR community to keep the momentum going. So there are ways we can do that. One of them is, one, don't stop your training now. And then as we move forward, we'll continue to message things that we want you to do, say on a monthly or quarterly basis, so that we don't lose momentum. It's gonna be difficult. Honestly, it's gonna take all of us. Just like it's gonna take people stop talking about dimers to move forward, right? I laughed when Colonel Motley said that, because I mean, quite frankly, it's true. We have to leave that behind. This isn't dimers. We've already fielded IPPS-A to the Guard. We're gonna field it to Release 3. We need a little more time. But to your point, we are concerned that we're going to lose momentum. So we're going to do everything from our side to make sure that we keep the force energized, but we also keep on pushing topics and relevant data that will build so that we aren't stagnant before we go live.
So it appeared that the brown overcoat over time was spot on, knowing that during the November, December timeline is when we're always busy, but not as busy as the rest of the year, because holidays coming in, a lot of people go on leave, a lot of soldiers go on leave. Waiting a year, I think will be very tough for the HR community, not only not to lose the momentum, but also to exercise the skills that we're just learning right now. And I'm saying one thing and I'll say the other one as well, which is perhaps taking the training now and identifying certain gaps that we didn't see before, perhaps you need a whole year, but a whole year looks like it's a stretch, it's a long amount, and I'm hoping that we're able to get back on schedule as soon as possible.
Yeah. So the one thing I'll say is a year is a long time, and December is just November brownout, and early December brownout was a really great time. Not sure that we'll be able to replicate that perfect time again.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
And stay tuned. Messaging coming soon.
Hey, Rebecca, no question, but I just wanted to give a shout out to Lee and team. They've been doing a great job working with us over at INSCOM, working through some of those IPPS-A to IPPS-A to AOS stuff, and really appreciate all the hard work and effort they put in with the team. So I just wanted to give them a shout out. Over.
Oh, thanks, Kevin. Yeah, Lee does a lot of heavy lifting for us for that community. So thanks. I'll make sure I pass that on. He's not spying in on this session.
Hey, ma'am. Hi, how you doing? This is Sergeant Major Uribe, AMC. Want to just echo, give a shout out to the entire IPPS-A team, Colonel Elko specifically, working with our IMCOM counterparts as we move forward, taking a look at how the military personnel divisions and their functions and their roles specifically with the implementation of R3. Going forward, I want to echo your comments in reference to, and Sergeant Major as well here, keeping the momentum. I would tell you from an AMC perspective, we're probably going to direct certain activities occur, maybe even a TTX type of exercise, replicating what a brownout would have been to exercise what the team put together and Colonel Elko team also put together in conjunction with AMC and how we're going to manage during brownout. I think that will send a pretty good message. It would help the enterprise, AMC enterprise in respect to IMCOM and MPDs to gain a level of standardization on how they support. And then the last thing I will probably say is the time to make sure that we implement with accurate data, with interfaces that accurately work is probably the best decision, and really sets conditions for release 4, where we start looking at meal pay. And that's another avenue that we're going to work really hard within AMC and use of FIMCOM to kind of look at how that's going to impact the force, going forward. But I would say for everyone that's on the net, and one problem set we continue to work within AMCs is to really get an understanding on every installation that's in the Army, specific. Either, and I mean, I've completed the majority of the training. I don't know what IPPS-A is not going to do for us, to be honest with you, from a base operations delivery of service perspective. But if there is something that's occurring that's probably a local practice, and that's one thing that we've identified within AMC that probably will not continue. But I do agree with your comments as well, as far as a functional user guide is a step-by-step introduction, but then our local SOP, and we're going to elevate that a little bit higher so we have standardization across the board. But again, very hard lift. It's tremendous what we've done. I was on board with Dimers, so now I'm on board with IPPS-A, and really look forward to what we can do as we capitalize on extra time. Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, Sergeant Major. And I will say one thing about it's really important that we understand how we do business at the local level, because, really, if you think there's a gap, right? You've taken all the HR Pro training and you're doing something at your unit that you don't think is captured in IPPS-A. We want to know that, because one, we could either show you how to do it in IPPS-A, or maybe maybe it's a separate UPK, which are the little, the videos. Maybe we have a UPK for that, because we didn't put all of the UPKs in the HR Pro training. There are a lot of UPKs that are not in there. So the other thing is maybe it's clearly a gap that we may need to do an ECR for. So we do, as folks become more comfortable with, after taking the training, they've done their instructor facilitator training, And they start playing in the operational training environment. We want you to get used to the system, and then we want you to pick out those things so that we can help the field, because that's really what we're here for. So if I don't see any other questions, so I'm really just going to close with this. You know, one of the things I've really enjoyed about working on this program is, you know, all the things that I used to complain about with our HR systems, you have a chance to shape. And I think sometimes that gets missed. Folks get caught up in this is just dimers because, you know, we've had a delay, and quite frankly, it's just not. I mean, we are moving forward, and we need everybody on board. If our HR community is not on board, then how do you get the rest of the Army on board? You know, if you haven't taken a look at our website, if you haven't taken a look at our S1Net page, you're missing a lot of really good information. And so, you know, our social media, we post webinars. We've got a lot of really great webinars. We do a lot of sessions with warrant officers that have played around in the system. We want you to be engaged with what we're doing. So please link in. If you've got questions, let us know. No, the new go live date was not briefed. Lieutenant Colonel Skelton. Probably in the next couple weeks. Continue to do your training. But I mean, we appreciate the feedback. I would love to say that we can do everything that folks ask us to do. Quite frankly, we just can't. But that doesn't mean that we're not writing it down, because I mean, this is going to be our system hopefully for a long time. So we'll be able to make enhancements. Go ahead, Lieutenant Colonel Skelton.
Hey, good afternoon. Thanks for that opportunity to contribute. I just wanted to encourage anyone who has questions on SOP development or incorporation of processes that might not yet be incorporated into IPPS-A, that we're working through that as a National Guard, migrating our other routing systems into the CRM process and recognizing huge efficiencies. So just an encouragement as you're going through your training, reach out to your Guard counterparts that are nearby and take a look at what they're doing in there, and if possible, join in on some of the LPDs or trainings that they're doing, because we've been working in it for a minute, and have developed some really good tools to help really as you're working through transactions once we go live. Over.
Thanks, actually, and you just reminded me of something. So we've been doing HR summits in several different locations, and we developed those HR summits based on lessons learned from release 2 when the Guard went live, because what we found was, you know, IPPS-A connects to a bunch of different places. And what was happening is even though a soldier or an S1 may know how to do a transaction in IPPS-A, what they didn't necessarily know was where that transaction went after that. So it's really the whole ecosystem of what happens with IPPS-A inserted that those HR summits get after. So it's, you know, what are the processes that include all of those in and outbound interfaces, and who or what system does it and connects to IPPS-A. So those HR summits, if we didn't come to your location, they are all recorded. And so I think they've been posting them on our S1Net page, on our MailSuite page. So if you link into those, you can see some of the process maps that we've put together that show the end-to-end processes for most of the things, the key things that we've got for the release 3. And with that, I'm going to say thanks. And please, again, if you've got questions, you need assistance, reach out to my team. You reach out to me directly. We're here to help. Thanks.